This anime opens by explaining that terrifying monsters, strange creatures, abundant riches, hidden treasures, demon lairs, untouched lands, unknown powers, and magic are all sought after by remarkable people. These individuals are known as hunters. On an island called Kujira, there lived a 12-year-old boy named Gon Freaks. By the lakeside, Gon managed to catch a fish that was considered the lake monster. Unexpectedly, his aunt Mito had purposely asked Gon to catch the fish as a requirement for him, as he wanted to take the hunter exam. Surprisingly, even the adults on the island were unable to catch this lake monster. However, just like his father, Jing Freaks, Gon inherited the same talent, allowing him to catch the lake monster with ease. At first, Mito asked Gon to catch the lake monster because she did not want him to follow Jing's path of becoming a hunter. Ever since Jing left to become a hunter, he never returned to Kujira Island, not even to care for Gon, his own child. Therefore, Gon was raised by Mito and his grandmother. However, Gon was determined as he still wanted to become a hunter out of curiosity about his father and to meet him someday. In short, Gon boards a ship that will take him to the hunter exam site. On this sailing ship, Gon meets his two new friends, Kurapika and Leorio, who will also take the hunter exam with him. During the journey, waves and storms hit, but they manage to reach Dolport. However, their journey doesn't end there. In fact, it hasn't even really begun, as they need to reach the exam site located on the top of a mountain. As part of the hunter exam, on their way to the mountain peak, Gon and the others face several obstacles, including a moral question posed by an old woman and her group. After successfully answering the woman's question, they continue their journey. As Gon and his groups grow hungry, they search for food in the forest. A few steps later, the group come across a house, and inside, they find a couple being attacked by a monster known as a Maju. These are highly intelligent creatures that can transform into humans. Upon seeing Gon and his friends, one of the mages quickly escapes, taking the wife with it. As a result, a chase ensues, while Leorio tends to the dying husband. During the chase, the Maju drops the wife, and Kurapika picks her up. Shortly after, Leorio catches up, claiming the husband is fine, so he leaves him and follows Kurapika. Unexpectedly, Kurapika suddenly strikes Leorio on the head, revealing that this wasn't the real Leorio, but the Maju, who had transformed into him. Kurapika realized the truth because he knew Leorio would never leave an injured patient, as Leorio has a desire to become a doctor, and a doctor's duty is to treat patients until they recover. The Maju, impressed by Kurapika's analysis, offers a small compliment. At the same time, Gon loses track of the Maju he was chasing until he reaches the edge of the forest. Unexpectedly, the Maju reappears, intending to attack Gon. However, the attack stops when Gon realizes that this Maju isn't the same one he was chasing earlier. Upon hearing this, the Maju was impressed by Gon's strong observational skills. It turned out that the Magus were actually a married couple with 2 children, who were initially mistaken for a human couple. In truth, the human couple were the children of the Magus, using human forms. They were actually examiners for the ongoing hunter exam. As a result, they assessed that Kurapika passed the exam due to his excellent analytical abilities. Meanwhile, Leorio passed because of his good treatment and handling of the patient. Not only that, Gon also passed due to his physical endurance and strong observational skills. Thanks to their individual strengths, all 3 of them passed the exam and they were taken to the next exam site. After a short air journey, they arrived in Zaban City. The examiner then led them to a restaurant, which turned out to be the entrance to the first stage of the hunter exam. At that moment, they used an elevator to reach an underground room, while the examiner left as his job was only to bring them to that point. Inside, Kurapika and Leorio discussed their goals of completing the exam and obtaining a hunter license. As those who become hunters with proof of their license gain advantages in their careers and easy access to future goals. Soon, they arrived at the underground sewer area, where they encountered hundreds of tense-looking participants. At that place, they met a man named Tanpa, who explained that it was his 34th attempt at the hunter exam, as he had failed in all his previous tries. He also warned the participants about people they should be cautious of, especially a magician named Hisoka. It turned out, Hisoka had previously reached the final stage of the hunter exam, but was disqualified for killing an examiner he didn't like. At that moment, Tampa seemed friendly and chatted with them. During the conversation, Tampa offered them drinks as a gesture of introduction. The three, being naive, accepted the drinks without hesitation. Unexpectedly, Tampa had an ulterior motive to poison them and cause them to fail the exam. Yet, just as they were about to drink, Gon sensed something was off. Having grown up in nature, Gon knew a lot about food, drinks, and particularly potions and poisons. As a result, Tampa's plan was foiled. It was revealed that Tampa had a habit of sabotaging newcomers in their first year of the hunter exam. Soon after, he roamed around looking for victims to poison with his drinks, until a boy around Gon's age asked Tampa for a drink. The boy's name was Killua, and he had already drunk 3 bottles of his drink. Yet Tampa was puzzled because the poison had no effect on him. It turned out that Killua wasn't an ordinary child, as he explained that his body had been trained and was immune to such weak poisons. As a result, Tampa was left in shock hearing this. Not long after, the examiner for the first stage of the hunter exam arrived. At that moment, the examiner named Saditz immediately warned the participants to prepare for various life-threatening challenges. After that, the first stage of the exam began as they followed Saditz to the location of the second stage. The participants then walked behind Saditz, whose pace gradually increased, yet still seemed relaxed. Before they knew it, they had been following Saditz for 2 hours, covering a distance of about 30 kilometers. As a result, many participants dropped out due to weak physical endurance. It was during this time that Gon met his new friend, Killua. Since they were the same age, they quickly became close, much like young children do. Despite their age, both Gon and Killua had remarkable physical stamina, as they showed no signs of fatigue during the first stage. Even Leorio, who almost collapsed from exhaustion, regained his energy and pushed forward. Leorio and Kurapika then started discussing their reasons for becoming hunters. Kurapika explained that he came from a tribe called Karada, known for their unique red eyes. A Karada's eyes turn red naturally when they experience extreme emotions, and during this state, their strength increases many times over. Not only that, Kurapika's goal was to seek revenge on a group of murderers called Unbreakable, who had massacred his tribe and stolen their eyes to sell. Once Kurapika passed the exam, he planned to use the hunter license to gather information in the black market and capture all members of Unbreakable, swearing to see it through. Leorio's goals were different from Kurapika's, as he wanted to become a hunter to earn money. With this license, Leorio would have access to high-paying jobs. It turned out, his motivation stemmed from a dark past, where he couldn't save his friends from a deadly disease. Since then, Leorio was determined to become a doctor, but to do so, he needed a lot of money for his education and other necessities. In addition to Kurapika and Leorio, Gon also had a reason for becoming a hunter. All this time, Gon was very curious about his father. Even though Gon had never met Jing, he wanted to understand why his father had chosen to abandon him in pursuit of being a hunter. Meanwhile, Killua took the hunter exam purely out of boredom, having recently run away from home. In short, after running a long marathon, they finally reached the end of the underground tunnel. Killua and Gon were the first participants to cross the finish line, but Saditz informed them that the first stage of the exam wasn't over yet. As it turns out, they had to pass through a swamp called Numera, which was covered in thick fog and known as a den of deceivers. The ecosystem there was filled with strange creatures that survived by deceiving their prey. As a result, they needed to run through the swamp while staying alert for any threats. So far, out of the original 404 participants, only 368 had made it through the underground tunnel and were now entering the Numera area. Soon after, the fog grew thicker as they progressed. Realizing this, Killua suggested to Gon that they move faster to avoid Hisoka, who was deemed dangerous. However, the participants ahead of them suddenly vanished into the fog, as if attacked by something. It turned out to be creatures known as small strawberry turtles. But the turtles weren't their only obstacle, as deadly mushrooms called claymores also took out a significant number of participants. In addition, hypnotic butterflies cast an illusion that made participants fall into a deep sleep. During this time, Gon and Killua were even swallowed by a giant frog that suddenly appeared. However, it wasn't a big problem as the frog spat them out, having been poisoned by the drink Killua was still carrying from Tampa. On the other side, Hisoka was being ambushed by participants who disliked him. It turned out the participants wanted to eliminate Hisoka from the exam by killing him. However, they were still far from being able to match Hisoka, who swiftly slaughtered them. It didn't take long before they were all dead. Unfortunately, Kurapika and Leorio were also accidentally nearby, making them Hisoka's next targets. Realizing the vast difference in strength, Kurapika planned to escape by instructing Leorio to run in the opposite direction. This way, Hisoka wouldn't attack both of them. But instead of fleeing, Leorio approached Hisoka to challenge him to a fight. Unexpectedly, Leorio's attack missed, and he was about to be killed. Just as Hisoka was about to finish him off, a punch landed on his face, stopping his attempt to kill Leorio. The punch came from Gon, who was trying to save Leorio. As a result, Gon ended up fighting Hisoka, but he was still too inexperienced to land a proper hit, and eventually, he was choked by Hisoka. However, instead of killing Gon, Hisoka spared him after noticing his potential, intrigued by how Gon might grow in the future. Not only that, Hisoka also decided to help Gon and carried Leorio to the second exam site. Meanwhile, Gon was left speechless and powerless after facing Hisoka for the first time, experiencing true fear. However, this didn't discourage him. In fact, it sparked a deeper curiosity within him. After all the events in Numera Swamp, they finally arrived at the second exam site in the Bisca Forest. At that moment, Saditz, the examiner for the first stage, bid them farewell as his task was complete. Now, the participants were faced with two new examiners, Menchi and her companion, Bahara. Unexpectedly, the test this time wasn't a battle. Instead, they were instructed to cook a Bisca wild boar. Without much discussion, the participants began searching for the boar. After a long search, they still hadn't found it, until Gon and his friends accidentally fell into the forest depths, landing right in front of the Bisca wild boars. It turned out, the creature weren't ordinary boars as they were death boars with horned noses, used for impaling their targets. Despite this, Gon soon noticed their weakness after one of the boars rammed into an apple tree, causing the fruit to fall and hit its head, which made the boar appear in pain. As a result, Gon concluded that the boar's weakness was its head, and with that knowledge, he swiftly took down the Bisca wild boar. Soon after, they all roasted the boar and cooked it as best as they could. When the time for judging arrived, none of the participants were able to satisfy Menchi, a hunter with a refined palate. As a result, Menchi declared that none of them passed the exam. Her decision disappointed the participants, leading to the arrival of the Hunter Association's airship. A moment later, an old man landed in the midst of the crowd. This man was a member of the Hunter Exam Committee, named Isaac Netero. Netero, realizing that Menchi had made a harsh decision by failing all the exam participants, offered her some advice. In response, Menchi apologized to Netero as the leader of the exam and then made a new decision. Menchi then requested Netero's assistance to take them all to a place called Mount Maputa. Once they arrived, Menchi explained that the second stage of the exam would be changed. They now had to retrieve hanging eggs from Kumawasi birds, to which Menchi gave a demonstration to all the participants. Soon after, Menchi leaped into a canyon, hanging onto one of the Kumawasi's webs, and at the right moment, she grabbed an egg. After that, Menchi was thrown back into the air and landed safely. Seeing this, Gon and his friends attempted it as well. Though the exam seemed easy, some participants died after falling, unaware of the trick, while Gon and the smarter participants successfully retrieved the eggs safely. They then boiled the eggs and ate them, completing the second stage of the exam. After finishing the second stage, only 42 participants remained. Because of this, they were now on an airship heading to the third exam site. During the journey, they were allowed to rest, while Gon and Killua chatted and spent the night talking. Killua revealed that he came from a family of assassins, the Zoldyck family. Apparently, Killua had joined the Hunter exam after running away from home following a fight with his mother and siblings. It turned out his mother had high hopes for Killua to inherit the Zoldyck family's leadership and become the strongest assassin. However, Killua didn't share his family's perspective, and he didn't want to become an assassin because he found it too boring. Shortly after, Netero approached them. Feeling bored himself, Netero suggested they play a game of catch with a special reward, a shortcut to becoming a hunter. If Gon and Killua could take the ball from his left hand, they would automatically pass and become hunters. Feeling challenged, the two immediately accepted. Killua then started first, using a technique from his assassin family called Sekyoku, the Shadow Step. However, despite his efforts, Killua couldn't take the ball from Netero. Next, it was Gon's turn, but before he could even begin, he hit the ceiling. Realizing they couldn't underestimate Netero, Gon and Killua decided to work together. Initially, they managed to unbalance Netero, but just as the ball was within reach, Netero quickly reclaimed it before they could touch it. Not only that, his swift movement even scorched the wooden floor. Seeing this, Killua realized something, so he decided to give up, concluding that Netero was only toying with them. It was impossible for the two of them to take the ball from Netero, since their current abilities weren't even enough to make Netero use his right arm or left leg. As a result, Killua chose to leave and find some other fun, while Gon decided to continue playing. It turned out, Gon didn't care about the ball itself, but was determined to make Netero get serious enough to use his right hand. As Killua exited the room, he accidentally bumped into two men. Offended by the bump, the men started trouble with him, but Killua easily killed them both in a fraction of a second, returning to Gon, who kept trying to provoke Netero into using his right hand. During his strongest attack, Netero was left with two choices: to use his defensive technique and risk Gon's head being crushed, or accept the attack and risk feeling pain. With no other option, Netero dodged by redirecting Gon's attack and accidentally used his right hand. Seeing this, Gon was overjoyed to have achieved his goal. However, exhaustion quickly took over, and Gon passed out. At that moment, Netero was impressed and admired Gon's potential for the future. After several hours, the sun finally rose, and they all arrived at the third exam site, Trick Tower. Now standing at the top of the tower, the participants' task was to reach the bottom within 72 hours. Soon after, the third stage of the exam had officially begun. At that moment, a seemingly simple man, a rock climber, attempted a shortcut by scaling down the side of the tower. However, he was soon snatched by a terrifying stork-like bird lurking nearby. Realizing that climbing down the tower was not an option, the group began searching for another way. After some time, Gon and Killua informed Kurapika and Leorio that they had found a hidden passage leading inside the tower. Since there were four of them, they each decided to take separate secret entrances. They then said their goodbyes, but surprisingly, all four passages led to the same room within the tower. Inside, one of the examiners, named Lippo, made an announcement, explaining that they needed to form a group of 5 members to unlock the next door. It turned out that Lippo was the head warden responsible for overseeing the prisoners held inside the tower. Now Lippo would use these prisoners to test the hunter exam participants. However, since Gon's group only had 4 members, they had to wait for one more person to join them. After a long wait, another participant finally arrived, and it was Tampa. Without much discussion, they all put on the bracelets provided to open the door to the next path. After a brief exploration, they arrived in a room where they encountered 5 prisoners. Lippo then explained that to proceed, they had to face the prisoners in one-on-one battles, with each group setting their own rules. Not only that, if Gon's team won 3 out of 5 matches, they would be allowed to continue. Without hesitation, one of the prisoners immediately challenged them to a duel. The prisoners suggested a fight using pure strength until one of them surrendered or died. Unexpectedly, Tampa volunteered to face the first prisoner. Soon after, both prepared for the duel, but shockingly, Tampa surrendered before the fight even began, causing the group to lose a point. It became clear that Tampa's true goal was to sabotage the participants. As a result, Tampa had proven to be the worst member of Gon's team, making things difficult for them. In the next round, it was Gon's turn to fight. This time, the challenge was different. The prisoner, named Sudokan, proposed a more relaxed contest, a candle challenge that didn't rely on strength. The goal was simple: whoever's candle burned the longest would win. Not only that, Sudokan also offered Gon a choice between a long or short candle. Without overthinking it, Gon chose the long candle, leaving Sudoku with the short one. When the contest began, it seemed obvious that the longer candle would last the longest. However, Sudoku had rigged the challenge by coating Gon's candle with oil, causing it to burn faster. In reality, both the long and short candles were rigged since Sudoku had 4 candles hidden behind his back, ready to cheat. Despite this, Gon cleverly found a solution as he noticed that the flame on his candle was large, meaning it wouldn't go out quickly if left alone. Therefore, Gon put his candle down and swiftly moved towards Sudoku, blowing out his candle. As a result, Gon won the contest since the rule was simply to keep the candle burning the longest. The next match was between Kurapika and a blue-skinned prisoner named Magitani, who proposed a death match, where the fight would continue until one of them surrendered or died. Before the battle even started, Magitani tried to intimidate Kurapika with threats, speaking in a sadistic tone and showing off his powerful muscles. However, Kurapika remained completely unfazed. Magitani then escalated his intimidation by smashing the floor with a punch, revealing a tattoo of a 12-legged spider, the symbol of the infamous Ganei-Ryoden, a group of killers. Unexpectedly, the tattoo was fake, used as a scare tactic to make Kurapika surrender early. However, instead of backing down, Kurapika became enraged upon seeing the symbol of the group that had slaughtered his clan. His eyes turned red, a sign that Kurapika belonged to the Korda clan. Even though he knew the tattoo was fake, Kurapika's hatred for the Ganei-Ryoden ignited his anger, leading him to kill Magitani immediately. With Kurapika's victory, Gon's group now led 2-1 against the prisoners. Meanwhile, Hisoka, the participant number 44, was ambushed by an examiner in another room within the tower. Apparently, the examiner sought revenge for losing a fight to Hisoka the previous year. Because of this, they began their battle immediately. During the fight, the examiner confidently attacked Hisoka with a series of small sickles. However, Hisoka easily dominated the fight, dodging all the attacks and swiftly capturing the examiner's sickles. In the end, the examiner was killed by Hisoka. Afterward, Hisoka continued on and became the first participant to pass the 3rd stage of the exam. Back with Gon and the others, it was Leorio's turn to face the next prisoner. At that moment, the prisoner, named Larut, offered a challenge involving a wager game or a round of rock, paper, scissors, where they would guess each other's moves until a winner was determined. However, they weren't just betting on the win, as they were betting time. In this round, they played rock, paper, scissors with time on the line, and if Leorio lost, he would cost his team 50 hours that they needed to complete the 3rd stage of the exam. In short, Larut won the match, costing Leorio and his team 50 hours. Thanks to his blunder, the score was now tied. Both teams got 2 points. For the final match, Killua stepped up to face a terrifying prisoner named Jonas, a ruthless serial killer. The duel began. However, in an instant and with ease, Killua killed Jonas by ripping out his heart without anyone even realizing what had happened, as he had used his deadly assassin techniques in the fight. With Killua's victory, Gon's team won and earned the right to proceed to the finish line. On the other hand, 2 more participants, Gitaractor and Hanzo, arrived at the finish line after completing the 3rd stage. Due to Leorio's earlier loss in the time wager, Gon's group was forced to spend 50 hours waiting in a special room before they could continue. While waiting, Kurapika asked Killua about how he had killed his opponents so effortlessly. At that moment, Killua finally revealed that he came from the Zoldyck family, which explained his unique physical abilities, allowing him to make his arms as sharp and strong as blades. Killua also explained that the previous fight had been far too easy for him. As in the past, he had completed assassination missions by killing professional targets with his bare hands. With no other options, they occupied the room in boredom until the 50 hours passed. After it was over, they finally continued their journey to the base of the tower and reached the finish line. At that moment, the group were given 2 choices. Path A, which allowed them to proceed together but would take several hours, or Path B, which allowed only 3 people to pass but would take just 3 minutes. With only 1 hour left, Gon came up with an idea to use the weapons available there to break through the barrier on Path B, allowing them all to go through quickly. In the end, they reached the finish line alongside the other 19 participants, which indicates that they all successfully completed the third stage of the Hunter exam. Meanwhile, after the dangerous experience in Trick Tower, Gon reflected on the journey in a letter to Mito, writing about meeting Kurapika, Leorio, and Killua, and how they overcame the challenges. Upon reading this, Mito couldn't help but notice how much Gon resembled his father, Jing. After exiting the tower, the 24 remaining participants were gathered to draw cards, each containing a number. One by one, they picked their cards, then the organizers explained that the number on the card was their target. Upon hearing this, the participants panicked and quickly hid their numbers. The organizers further explained that if they managed to steal their target's number, they would earn 3 points. Not only that, their own participant number was also worth 3 points. Each person needed to collect 6 points in total, 3 from their own number and 3 from their targets. Additionally, if they couldn't steal their target's number, they could take someone else's, but that would only be worth 1 point, meaning they'd need to steal from 3 others to gather enough points. Unfortunately, Gon drew number 44, and his target was the deadly Hisoka. Afterward, Gon and Killua had a conversation, and when Killua learned that his friend had such a difficult target, he encouraged Gon to stay alive. Not long after, the hunt for the participant numbers would take place on a remote island called Zevel. Each participant was given time to find a safe and strategic spot on the island to begin the hunt. Not only that, they had 1 week to complete the 4th stage of the exam. When Gon arrived on Zevel Island, he began planning how to safely steal Hisoka's number. Shortly after, he observed 2 other participants battling, with one successfully taking their target's number. Realizing that the participant had used a well-thought-out strategy, Gon decided to train himself in targeting by using his fishing rod as a weapon to face Hisoka. Gon started practicing by aiming at both stationary and moving targets. Not only that, he also learned how to focus on a target by observing a bird sneakily watching a fish, waiting for the perfect moment to strike and catch the fish. Soon after, Gon applied this method, practicing by targeting the bird with the fish as bait. At the right moment, Gon launched his attack. After practicing for a while, Gon mastered the art of aiming. However, unbeknownst to him, another participant was watching him, waiting for the right moment to make him their target. But for now, that participant held off from making a move. Gon, after 2 days of practicing with his fishing rod, developed a small wound on his palm, attracting blood-sucking butterflies. Realizing this, he decided to use the butterflies to track Hisoka, remembering that Hisoka had been injured during his fight with an examiner in the 3rd stage. Meanwhile, Leorio, feeling confused, was approached by Tonpa, who complained of a stomachache and asked him, as an aspiring doctor, for some diarrhea medicine. Leorio agreed, but only if Tonpa provided information about his target. With no other option, Tonpa revealed that Leorio's target, participant number 246, was a woman named Ponzu, who used chemical poisons as her weapon. After sharing the information, Leorio began to give Tonpa the medicine. However, as Leorio opened his suitcase, a monkey snatched his participant number. It turned out the monkey tamer, a participant working with Tonpa, was behind this. Unexpectedly, the monkey tamer's face looked strikingly similar to his monkey's. After getting Leorio's participant number, the monkey tamer and his monkey fled, arranging to meet Tonpa later. Angry, Leorio chased after Tonpa, but Kurapika, who had been watching Tonpa, intercepted him. As a result, they both captured Tonpa, leaving him beaten and tied up, destined to starve. Kurapika then managed to capture the monkey as well, and both the monkey tamer and the monkey were beaten and tied up alongside Tonpa. It turned out Kurapika's target was Tonpa, and now that he had his participant number, Kurapika only needed to help Leorio gather enough points. Knowing this, Leorio thanked Kurapika and continued his hunt. Back to Gon, who had found Hisoka's location. However, he waited for Hisoka to engage his target before making his move. Shortly after, a spearman named Jelong approached Hisoka and challenged him to a fight. Wasting no time, Jelong attacked Hisoka with all his might, though his efforts were in vain. Gon, observing the fight, couldn't find an opening to act, as Hisoka remained on guard. Soon after, Hisoka dodged Jelong's attacks effortlessly without fighting back. This was because Hisoka already knew that Jelong would soon die from a poison trap he encountered before meeting him. Realizing he didn't have long to live, Jelong decided to die as a warrior by challenging someone as strong as Hisoka. However, Hisoka had his own principle of not attacking the weak, especially those close to death. Moments later, a needle-like attack struck Jelong, killing him instantly. It turned out, the attack came from Gitaraker, Hisoka's ally in the Hunter exam. Since Gitaraker had already gathered his target's number and points, he gave 1 point to Hisoka. Gitaraker then disguised himself as a rat, stating in his true form that he would rest underground until the 4th stage of the exam was over. Not long after, Hisoka planned to find 2 more participants to collect the remaining points he needed. Soon after, he spotted Leorio and Kurapika walking and decided to make them his next targets. Gon, realizing that Hisoka was after Leorio and Kurapika, hurried to catch up, but Hisoka ambushed them first. Initially, they were about to fight, but Kurapika offered Hisoka an unused participant number instead. As a result, Hisoka accepted the deal and chose not to attack them. According to Hisoka, Kurapika had the potential to become strong, someone that he would enjoy fighting in the future. For this reason, Hisoka refrained from killing Kurapika for the time being. Despite this, Hisoka still needed 1 more participant number to complete his 6 points. At the same time, Gon had been watching Hisoka unnoticed all night. The next day, Gon continued to observe Hisoka, waiting for the right moment to steal his number. Eventually, Gon saw another participant who seemed to be Hisoka's next target. Because of this, Gon anticipated where they would meet to fight. Shortly after, the male participant noticed Hisoka's approach and prepared for an attack. At that precise moment, Gon used his fishing rod to snatch his number just after Hisoka decapitated the male participant. Unexpectedly, Gon successfully stole Hisoka's number, therefore, he quickly fled the area. Not long after, Gon suddenly felt dizzy and collapsed. Another participant, who had been stalking Gon as their target, took advantage of the moment, stealing both Gon's and Hisoka's numbers before leaving. When Gon was half-conscious on the verge of despair, Hisoka suddenly approached him. At that moment, Hisoka praised Gon for stealing his number. Not only that, Hisoka also admitted that he hadn't realized Gon had been watching him, as his presence was completely undetectable. Unexpectedly, Hisoka returned Gon's number along with his own, ensuring that Gon had the 6 points needed to pass the 4th stage of the exam. Apparently, Hisoka no longer needed his number, as he had already gathered 6 points. Once again, Hisoka helped Gon, intrigued by his potential. Initially, Gon resisted accepting his help, but Hisoka slapped him in the face. Hisoka told Gon that he now owed him a debt. Therefore, once Gon became strong, he would have to land a punch on his face, just as Hisoka had done to him. After that, Hisoka left Gon alone. In the quiet of the night, Gon felt utterly powerless, realizing he lacked the strength to fight someone like Hisoka. The scene then shifted to Killua, who was being confronted by 3 brothers. They exchanged a few words before one of them kicked Killua. However, Killua found the kick amusing as he had already managed to steal one of their participant numbers without them noticing. Realizing that Killua was no ordinary child, the 3 brothers formed a combat formation. But in a flash, Killua took one of them hostage. As it turned out, his target was number 199, which belonged to one of the brothers. Soon after, having obtained 3 numbers, Killua tossed the 2 and used ones in the opposite direction, toying with them, before walking away. At the same time, a ninja named Falcon, who had been observing them, saw one of the tossed numbers and quickly retrieved it. However, Falcon made a mistake, aiming for number 197, but picking up 198 instead, having been tricked by Killua. Now, Falcon had to find the other number to complete his points. On the other hand, Kurapika was still accompanying Leorio in his search for points. Soon after, Gon joined them, having already gathered his points, and offered to help Leorio hunt down Ponzu. According to the information they had, Ponzu used chemical poisons as her weapon, and with Gon's sharp sense of smell, they followed his lead to track her down. Not long after, the group eventually arrived at a location where the scent of chemicals led them to a cave, indicating Ponzu was inside. Since it was Leorio's responsibility, he asked the others to wait outside while he went in to confront Ponzu. Agreeing with Leorio's decision, they stayed outside as he entered the cave. Once inside, Leorio immediately encountered a snake handler named Bourbon, along with Ponzu, who was Leorio's target. Shortly after, Leorio's scream echoed from the cave, warning Gon and Kurapika not to enter. Sensing that Leorio was in danger, they rushed inside. To their shock, they found Leorio lying on the ground, severely injured and covered in bites from venomous snakes. At that moment, Ponzu explained that it was a trap set by Bourbon, involving thousands of snakes ready to attack anyone who tried to leave the cave. Unfortunately, Bourbon was already dead, leaving them with no way out. Ponzu then shared how she ended up trapped in the cave. Apparently, she had targeted Bourbon and used sleeping gas at the cave entrance to immobilize him and steal his participant number. Thinking Bourbon was unconscious, Ponzu entered the cave, but she accidentally triggered an attack from the snakes, causing her to scream in panic. Not only that, her scream also activated the strange hat she wore, which unleashed a swarm of bees that attacked Bourbon, stinging him to death. The hat was actually a beehive Ponzu used as her weapon when in danger. As a result, Ponzu had resigned herself to waiting for the exam officials to rescue her once the fourth stage was over. Hearing this, Gon refused to stay idle. He then bravely searched Bourbon's body, enduring the snake bites to retrieve the antidote for the venom. Because of this, Gon managed to find the antidote, saving both Leorio and himself. Witnessing his fearless actions, both Ponzu and Kurapika were impressed. After recovering, Gon offered a deal to Ponzu, where he asked for her sleeping gas to knock out the snakes, allowing them to escape the cave. In return, Gon would give her Bourbon's number, which he had taken while braving the snake swarm. At first, Ponzu hesitated, as holding one's breath for a long time was the only way to avoid the effects of a sleeping gas while escaping the cave. However, Gon assured her that he could hold his breath for nearly 10 minutes, which convinced her to trust him. Once the gas was released, both the snakes and the others fell asleep, except for Gon, who held his breath. Gon then carried everyone out of the cave. As agreed, Gon gave Ponzu Bourbon's number, but also took her own number, so that Leorio could complete his points. After all, Ponzu had at least been rescued from the cave. The next day, the fourth stage of the exam ended. The examiners arrived at Zeval Island to pick up the remaining participants, and only 9 had survived this stage. The first was Hisoka, followed by Killua, Gitarakar, Bedoro, the Ninja Falcon Hanzo, Pakal, Kurapika, Leorio, and lastly Gon. They were all transported to the final exam site, where they would have a chance to earn their hunter licenses. During the journey, Netero, the chairman, and other examiners gossiped about the participants who had shown significant improvement compared to the previous year. Netero then began preparing for the final stage of the exam. After a long journey, the 9 remaining participants were gathered at the Hunter Association's committee hotel, where the final exam would take place. At that place, Chairman Netero displayed a tournament bracket, showing that the participants would duel until a winner was declared. In this final stage, only one person would fail to become a hunter, where the participants needed only one victory to pass. The duel was not just about strength, but also about the willpower of the aspiring hunters. Not only that, they would be considered defeated if they chose to surrender, and the fights would continue according to the bracket until the final match. However, if a participant killed their opponent, they would be immediately disqualified. Not long after, the final stage of the exam began, and the first match was between Gon and the Ninja Falcon Hanzo. As the duel started, it was clear that in terms of strength and speed, Gon was no match for Hanzo, who quickly knocked him down. However, Gon refused to give up. Hanzo continued to beat Gon, who was powerless to defend himself. At that moment, the other participants and examiners watching were horrified by the one-sided duel and Netero's decision to design the final stage this way. Despite the pain, Gon still didn't surrender. Leorio, enraged by seeing his young friend being brutally beaten, wanted to intervene and stop the duel, as did Kurapika, who was equally emotional. Hanzo, who had trained in ninja techniques since childhood, was hardened by intense physical and mental conditioning to reach his current level. Despite hearing this, Gon didn't care. He was determined not to surrender. Gon even managed to land a hit on Hanzo as he was showing off his skills. Hanzo, now more serious, threatened to cut off his legs unless he gave up. But even that didn't shake Gon. With no other option, Hanzo threatened to kill him, but Gon's unyielding spirit remained strong. Seeing his stubbornness and unwillingness to give in, Hanzo eventually conceded defeat, unable to find a way to break Gon's resolve and unwilling to kill him. Unexpectedly, after Hanzo declared his own loss and gave Gon the victory, Gon refused to accept it, demanding that they fight in another way. Frustrated, Hanzo knocked Gon unconscious with a slap and asked the examiners to declare Gon the winner while arranging a new fight for himself with another participant. In his unconscious state, Gon had a vision of his father in a distant place, but he couldn't reach him. When Gon finally woke up, Saditz was there, congratulating him on passing the hunter exam. Saditz then handed Gon his hunter license, advising him to use this precious item wisely and in accordance with his heart. Saditz also informed Gon that the final stage of the exam had concluded, with only one participant failing, and that person was Killua. Saditz then recounted what had happened after Gon fainted. At that time, the next match was between Kurapika and Hisoka. However, after Hisoka whispered something to Kurapika, he suddenly surrendered, making Kurapika the victor. Following that, Hanzo fought Pakal, who quickly gave up after being caught in a deadly hold. Later, Hisoka, who had previously conceded, fought another participant, Badoro. In the match, Hisoka won after Badoro surrendered, influenced by something he had whispered. The match continued with Pakal facing Killua, but Killua immediately surrendered, deeming Pakal too weak to be a worthy opponent. This led to Killua being pitted against Gitaracker. However, before the fight began, Gitaracker revealed his true identity to Killua. He was his older brother, Illumi. As a result, Killua was shocked by this revelation. Illumi then questioned Killua about why he was participating in the hunter exam. In fear, Killua admitted that deep down, he only wanted to have friends. But Illumi provoked Killua, insisting that as an assassin, he was not allowed to have friends, as it would only hinder his development as a professional killer. Knowing that Killua's friend was gone, Illumi initially planned to find and kill him. However, he was stopped by Leorio, Kurapika, and Hanzo. As a result, Illumi reconsidered his actions, realizing that killing someone before obtaining his hunter license would result in his disqualification and failure in the final stage of the exam. Thus, Illumi decided to focus on his battle with Killua to obtain the license first, after which he would be free to kill anyone he wished. Illumi then continued to pressure Killua, who was terrified of his older brother. Illumi threatened Killua, warning him not to resist or face severe consequences. In the end, Killua broke under the pressure and surrendered with mentally unstable. With his surrender, Illumi was declared the winner and passed the final stage of the exam. However, something unexpected happened. During the next match between Leorio and Badoro, Killua, in a dazed state, suddenly killed Badoro. Because of this, he was disqualified for his actions, and Leorio passed the exam by luck. After hearing this from Saditz, Gon was furious with Illumi for what he had done to Killua. Soon after, Gon confronted Illumi, demanding that he apologize to Killua because his intimidation had driven his friend to such desperation that he killed Badoro. Not only that, Gon accused Illumi of being an unworthy brother for manipulating Killua into actions that went against his will. Shortly after, Netero and the other examiners arrived to begin the hunter orientation. Netero also addressed Killua's situation, as Kurapika and Leorio had previously lodged a complaint. However, Netero ruled that Killua's actions fell within the exam's regulations, as there was no evidence proving that he was under Illumi's influence. With that, the matter was considered closed, and the orientation proceeded. A committee member then explained the significance of the hunter license they had earned. The card allowed access to 90% of restricted countries and 75% of forbidden areas worldwide, as well as free entry to 95% of public facilities. The license also enabled them to make financial transactions, and if they sold it, the money would last for 7 generations. As a result, they were advised to safeguard the card carefully, as losing it could lead to serious consequences. Eventually, the new hunters were encouraged to pursue their dreams using this valuable card. Not long after, the 7 remaining participants were officially declared hunters. Hisoka, Pakal, Hanzo, Kurapika, Leorio, Gon, and Illumi. Afterward, Gon confronted Illumi again, asking for the location of the Zoldyck family residence. It turned out, Gon intended to find Killua and bring him back. Without hesitation, Illumi revealed the location, which turned out to be Kukuru Mountain. Upon hearing this, Gon immediately set off to find Killua. Gon was joined by Kurapika and Leorio, who also wanted to help retrieve Killua. Before they left, Saditz approached Gon for a brief conversation. At that moment, Saditz explained that he was a hunter specializing in discovering, restoring, and preserving ancient ruins. At first, Saditz was focused solely on fame and the discoveries themselves, but over time, he learned of another hunter who had spent his wealth to restore ruins and ensure their preservation for future generations. That hunter was none other than Jing, Gon's father. Unfortunately, Saditz didn't have much more information to share about Jing, acknowledging that he was a mysterious man. Despite this, Saditz hoped that Gon would meet his father soon. After this brief exchange, they parted ways. Gon, Kurapika, and Leorio then looked up information about Kukuru Mountain. The mountain, standing at 3,722 meters, was located in the Republic of Padokia, a small country they were unfamiliar with. Visitors were allowed to enter the area under supervision. Not only that, the flight to get there would take around 3 days. Armed with this information, Gon, Kurapika, and Leorio set out immediately, beginning their journey to the Zoldyck family estate to bring Killua back. Moral lesson from the story: don't fight someone who collects sickles. They might just collect you next. Also, if your rock, paper, scissors game takes 50 hours, you're probably playing it wrong.